Farrell states in his article about the world's population, what's wrong? Everybody on Earth is in denial about our biggest problem, population growth. There are over 7 billion people in the world. There's a net of 75 million babies born every single year. This huge number of people is already becoming an issue all over the world in terms of sustainability. There are very few policies concerning world hunger. Today, I'm going to show you the problem with the lack of policy for the sustainability of the huge human population of Earth, give a solution to the problem, as well as give you benefits to my solution to the problem. Everyone here has seen the commercials on television about starving children around the world. But what can we do to solve this huge problem? There are things we can do to prevent this large problem from becoming an even bigger crisis. I don't know everything about the human population, but I have been to places where I've seen starvation up close and personal, and it's really hard to see. I've been to the Dominican Republic. The rapid reproduction rate of humans is reaching a critical peak. The problem with overpopulation in the earth is first, running out of resources, and second, not having enough health care to sustain the population. My solution to the problem is putting a limit on the number of children allowed per family, as well as increasing crop and food production. The benefit of my solution is more resources available in order to sustain the population. Now that you know what my main points are, let's move on to the problem. First, the problem is overpopulation of the world. There are not enough resources to support the human race. The World Food Program website states an estimated 146 million children in developing countries are underweight, the result of acute or chronic hunger. If people are struggling to find food and live now, the problem will only get worse as time goes forward. How will people find enough food with an even higher population later on in the future? Ariel Sports states in an article about population growth rates, in order to feed a world of 9.6 billion people, the projected population 37 years down the line, farmers today would have to make significant changes, devoting less to land biofuels and dramatically boosting crop production yields. In 40 years, the population will be 28% increase than what it is today. Also, there's simply not enough health care available to support today's high population. John Common states in an article about worldwide health care and physicians, it's only going to get worse because we're not producing enough physicians and to meet the needs of the population we have today or the baby boomers of tomorrow. There are simply not enough doctors and treatment facilities to support the large number of people all over the world. There are people that die from diseases that have a cure, as well as people that get sick when they have a vaccine to prevent the sickness or antibiotics to cure it simply, but they don't have access to the treatment. Now that you know what the problem is of overpopulation, let's move on to the solution. The solution is putting a limitation on the number of children allowed per family, as well as increased production of food supplies. I don't agree with government overtaking all of society. I'm not a socialist or a communist, but I do think that this is one of the only realistic solutions to the problem of overpopulation. China, as many people know, has a one-child policy law. Christian Storm states in his article about growing up in China, in 1979, after steady population increase and declining infant mortality rates, the ruling Communist Party in China instituted a one-child policy on young families in the country. While the legislation allowed for some exceptions, the regulation was quite effective, greatly reducing China's birth rates. Next thing, increasing crop and food growth. One way to help solve the problem of world hunger is to increase the production of food. In fact, this is kind of a no-brainer. People are starving all over the world. We are very blessed in the United States because we have a lot of access to food and resources here. But there are people, even in the United States, that are starving. If we increase crop production, we can increase the amount of available food for starving people. Tara Kelly says in her article in the Time newspaper, Growing shortages of water and less productive land to yield crops will further hinder the world's future food production. We need to act now. We need to start setting aside more and more land to grow more and more crops. Petroleum and gas reserves are important, but not as important as food and growing crops. We can also support, petroleum and gas reserves are important, but not as important as growing crops in the United States. But what can we do to enact change? We can vote for representatives that agree with us on growing more crops in the United States. We can also support the organizations that promote helping people around the world that are starving. Now that you know about the problem and my solution to overpopulating the earth, let's move on to the benefits of my solution. The benefits in having more food production and having a limit on the number of children per family are numerous. Decreasing family sizes by putting a limit on the number of kids per family would help population tremendously. China is proof of that. The benefits of having smaller families would help the overpopulation by millions of people per year. The Statistico website claims that the average number of children per family unit is 3.24. If the United States put a limit on the number of children allowed simply to 2, that would be a decrease of 32.5% of children born every single year. The United States has access to a lot of resources, but if smaller countries had a limit on the number of children allowed per home, it would make a huge difference for them. There would be fewer mouths to feed and more resources to share for a smaller population. Also, the benefits of having more crop production are huge. There would be more crops, there would be more food available to feed people. Right now there's enough people to feed the world, but there's not enough resources to get it there. In 50 years, there will not be enough food to feed the world. We have to take appropriate action now so that our children and grandchildren will live a better life. In conclusion, there are benefits to my plan of action against overpopulation. To sum things up, overpopulation is a serious issue that needs to be solved. I hope that I persuaded you to believe that we need better policies concerning overpopulation and world hunger. The Action Against Hunger website states, global hunger now afflicts nearly 1 billion people worldwide. Severe acute malnutrition, however, is the immediate killer. It threatens the lives of over 34 million children. Every year, at least 1 million of those children die from malnutrition-related causes.